Hey, welcome to Hometown Heroes. It's Tuesday morning, and Mary's here. And today we really have some special guests. We've got Krystle, and we've got Gus with the Texas Veterans Network. And this is going to be one of those episodes that military, reservists, National Guards, Texas National Guard, veterans, and family members
That's right.
need to listen to, because we're going to have a lot of information about a lot of help that's out there. So, and Mary's had a lot of practical experience dealing with the Texas Veterans Network. So, welcome today.
Thank you.
And Krystle, that end of the table down there with Mary and Krystle, kind of outrank this end of the table with Gus and myself. We're both Army, and we've got two of the upper level NCOs down there. So Krystle was a Navy veteran, Navy chief.
Yeah,
and
Navy
that's
senior
right,
chief.
like being a gunny in the Marine Corps. And
sit up
Mary was
straight.
That's right.
tell
I was not only an E8 senior master sergeant, but a first sergeant. So I was, people, you always get scared. I'm like, I'm not that kind of first sergeant. I wasn't the scary first sergeant.
Yeah,
So,
she's a
yep.
scary president on our board.
No, I'm not scary.
But we're glad to have y'all here today.
Thanks for having us.
No,
And,
thanks for having us, Rick.
Gus, you're from New York.
New York, yeah. I originally from Queens, New York, one of the 5 boroughs. Grew up in Long Island, which is outside of New York City. 17, I joined the Army. Did a few years active duty. After leaving active duty, I went back to New York, joined the New York Army National Guard, famous Rainbow Division. Now, while I was on active duty, I was with the 2nd Army Division here in Fort Hood. And then 1992, I joined the biggest circus in New York City, which is the New York City Police Department.
The biggest circus.
So I did that for 22 years, retired after 22 years with the rank of sergeant, and moved to the best state in the country. I moved to Texas.
Moved to the promised land.
Promised land, yes, sir. And ever since 2013, started getting involved with in the veteran space. But I got involved with the veteran space back in when I was still with the NYPD after September 11, 2001. Group of veterans from both the NYPD, the fire department in New York City got together, and we started visiting everyone that was originally coming back from Afghanistan. We started going to Walter Reed, Bethesda Naval Hospital.
Wow.
And that's how it started, and fast forward to 2013, I got involved here in North Texas, and I've been doing it ever since.
And that's something I never have thought about, about the first responders that were there the day of September 11th to go visit the veterans that went over to Afghanistan to fight.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, what a connection.
that's
Yeah.
how it all
Yeah.
started. Yeah, we felt, especially being veterans, it was a way for us to give back to them. A lot of them stepped up because of what happened on September 11th, and at that, I remember when Winter Warrior Project started in New York, 2003, and we would go every 6 months. We would go visit, Walter Reed, Bethesda, and then walk around the rooms, and a lot of these guys and girls were like freshly off the battlefield,
Yeah.
coming back from Landstuhl.
Yep.
Remember we had to wear a mask, put protective clothing on just to speak to them, and then meet a lot of the they were young. 18, 19. You got to meet their parents, and they're not just from all over the country. So it was that's what motivated me to get into what I do now, and it's been a roller coaster, but it's been great.
Yeah. Well, and you bring that up, but I've been listening a lot to a lot of Don Graves stuff about when the Japs hit Pearl Harbor and all the rush to the recruiting office, and you probably in New York saw a real big rush to the recruiting office after 9/11, and so it probably hit home a lot with you. I was in my break in service at that time. I was actually on an airplane on 9/11. Didn't know what was happening until I landed in Miami. But it's you don't think about that rush to join up just that same way as after Pearl Harbor, because that's really probably what it seemed like.
Yeah, and and then what we started doing was once they started getting better, a lot of these injured service members, we would invite them to New York. We made an arrangement with Walter Reed, with Bethesda. Hey, once they get better, bring them up to New York. So we would wait for them and give them a police escort. The first site that they wanted to see was Ground Zero.
Wow.
Now, for me, one of the we had a Marine. He was a double amputee, lost both legs in Afghanistan, and we wheeled him down to Ground Zero, and the first thing he did was stand up. He just gotten his new prosthetic legs. He stood up and he saluted the flag.
Wow.
So that, moments like that was
Priceless.
Yeah, priceless. Yeah,
Very powerful memories.
yeah. Those are. That's one of many, but that's one of the most, the one that I could remember the most. Young
I can
kid.
see why.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And we would take them around New York City. First thing they want to do is eat pizza.
Yep, don't blame them there either.
Thin crust, not deep dish. And,
I prefer the thin crust, the deep
Good.
dish when you're really young, but not as you get older.
And now, what the things we didn't know at the time was, half of them were, taking meds, and of course, being New York City cops, we had connections with the local bars, and
Sometimes the meds in the bars don't.
Yes, so we found that out later on, and then we made some adjustments.
Lessons learned.
Lesson
That's
learned.
life. That's life.
So and then we started inviting their families to come out to like the 4th of July fireworks, the Thanksgiving Day parade, New Year's Eve, and we would set up a whole section just for them and treat them,
The
like
way they should be treated.
they should be treated. Yep. So.
Wow, that is really cool.
Yeah, a lot of people, ask me, how did you get involved? And
That's
tell
how.
them,
Yeah.
it's
Wet your whistle a little.
yeah.
Krystle, you're from Pennsylvania,
Yes.
and you're a Navy veteran,
Yes.
and you went in. You must have gone in. You must have lied about your age or something. You gone in when you were about 12 or 13, huh?
No, I was 17 like Gus.
Okay.
My parents signed the paperwork, and it's funny because I say Scranton, Pennsylvania, because it's the biggest town people would recognize. So I say, the show The Office, and all that footage of The Office is real of Scranton, Pennsylvania. So yeah, that's where I'm from. Went in as an avionics technician. Did that for about 3 years. I will tell you, I'd never served one day at sea, but it wasn't my fault.
The whole time?
The entire career, 20
See,
years.
that's kind of like the skipper. I was at a luncheon not long ago, and
Yes.
sometimes they send some of the civilians out to aircraft carrier to experience that, to come back. And so he was introducing somebody and said, yeah, he went out to the aircraft carrier and he spent 1 day more than I have on a ship because I never have been on a ship. just in
Right.
the night,
Well, he
so.
flies.
Yeah.
He
And that's kind of my
And that's where you were
excuse.
in the
right.
avionics.
We had big platforms. So C9Bs and DC9s, we moved cargo and passengers. That was my first duty station in Atlanta area. And then P3s, again, too big for a ship. So worked on P3s, but then I also did instructor duty, and that was probably my favorite tour, which was also in New Orleans, and the cuisine was amazing. But it was just really awesome to be able to shape people's minds and hearts. And I didn't stay avionics, so I got drafted, I say, to become a career counselor or career coach in the Navy. And so dealt with a lot of programs from relocation and onboarding to retirement and everything in between, which I feel really prepared me for the role that I'm in now. So I retired out of the local joint base as an inspection team member over the fixed wing, the fighter, platform throughout the United States. And loved every minute of it. Some days, were better than others, but 20 years went by really fast. So
You were here at NASJRB?
Yes, sir.
Fort Worth? Okay.
Yeah, I was
When did
stationed
you
here.
retire?
2021.
I was to say because I knew she looked familiar. I can imagine her with her hair back. because I was on the base from '05 to 2020. I retired
Okay.
in 2020.
So I served there the first time from '05 to '09 as a little E5, you know, and then I came back in 2018, and again, this place has grown so much since then. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you ended up in Texas.
Ended up in Texas and moved my family down to Texas. So super excited. It was a little acclimation period with the weather and the culture and everything, but it's awesome. So, and Texas is really great to its veterans. So thanks for that.
Yes, amazing. I think probably better than any other. We talk about this all the time. I
Yes.
think Texas is better probably than any other state.
I'd have to
and
agree.
Fort Worth is, I know DFW on the whole, but Fort Worth in particular is incredibly military friendly.
And you know, we have some great organizations that Mary and I are affiliated with. That's Roll Call. We had the
Yes.
Veterans Luncheon, and
Yes.
then we're both members of the Fort Worth Air Power Council. We work closely with the base, you know, and all the different units out there, and then Holidays and Heroes, and with the Air Power Foundation. So
Right.
there's a lot of great support in some local organizations for our military, our veterans, and their families. So, because you know, it's not just about the veteran; it's about the entire family. Just like you were
Yes.
talking about bringing the families up to New York. You know,
Yeah, so when I retired, I found myself in the nonprofit space, and I was a veteran case manager for about 2 years before I landed here at Texas Veterans Network. So it was a more focused role with training and employment, but again, I really feel like that helped me learn a lot of the local agencies and resources and to have those relationships because there's so much of a need at times for different veterans, and you have to be able to work together, collaborate for the good of the veteran community. So it's amazing.
and there's just so much out there, and
Yes.
it's nice to have a central location that kind of
Right.
ties it all up.
Yes.
And Mary, we've had some of the roll call, the veterans that come to roll call, and you've helped going through the Texas Veterans Network.
Yep. Several years ago, I was able to come on and be able to actually do the referrals myself in the system, which meant I was the middleman. So,
We're quick connected.
and in some cases, it just doesn't make sense to be the middleman. So a lot of times I'll tell the veteran, unless you can't get on the computer and do it yourself, I'm going to guide you to how to go get that done on the computer so that you can have your information stay private and personal. But if you can't, because the reality is that we still have quite a few veterans that don't really use computers or
Yes.
they're not computer literate, they
Yes.
struggle.
Yes.
So in those cases, then I'll do it for them. But, you know, the thing, a lot of people go, well, they're veterans. Don't they have all these benefits? And, you know, and I would always tell people when I was even a first sergeant, we had homeless airmen because people think about the active duty. Well, in this area, we have a lot of reserve and guard.
Yes.
And reserve and guard only get paid
1 week
the
and a month.
days they're in military status, which is a minimum of 39 days a year. But if all they do is 39 days a year, that's not paying the bills. And I had kids that were taking care of their entire 21-year-olds taking care of their entire families.
Yeah.
And they were trying to make ends meet, and you know, they're 21, they're not like making big paychecks as a civilian. Some of them were trying to go to school, they couldn't go to school because they had to take care of their families. There's stories out there when you're dealing with a lot of reserve and guard in this particular area. And then not all veterans are in great shape. Some veterans, the only money they have coming in is the little bit of Social Security they have, if they have it,
Right.
if they've reached that age yet, and maybe some disability or some retirement. A lot of them didn't retire in this area. They did, 4, 5, 6 years and they got out, and maybe they got a 30 or 40% disability or something, but they're not banking. So there's a lot of different cases out there, and so you try to help people the best you can. And these guys have been amazing because I've just been able to work through them, and they then reach out, as they're going to share with everybody. They then can reach out to all of these other organizations that we have that do different things. So I always tell people at roll call, no, we don't actually help you put a ramp in. Well, we have We have actually physically built a ramp. I shouldn't say that. And
not
we've cleaned up
typically what we
property
do.
and we've done some things, but it's not our mission, right?
Right.
But you guys have the tentacles to reach the people that can do this and do that and the other thing. So
Yep.
it's a beautiful thing that they're going to share with everybody. And I'd suggest you take out a pen and a paper and write down some notes.
Because you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's not just for the veterans or the military, but those organizations that
Yes.
help.
Right.
This is a good time to take some notes,
Yeah.
so you'll know how to get plugged in. So
Yes.
let's dive into the Texas Veterans Network
Okay.
So,
and
yeah,
find out what you do, how you do it.
Could we tell them about how it kind of started? A
Yeah.
little bit of the.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our organization started in Houston in 2015, Combined Arms. It was founded by another veteran who was struggling when he first came out of the military. He went back to Texas A&M, and his thesis was, how can I get all these veteran service organizations under one central location? So down in Houston, Combined Arms, who's we're a 501c3. We have an actual building where we have reps from different organizations. So about 3 years ago, the state of Texas Veterans Commission, approached Combined Arms. Can you create the same model that you have in Houston? Maybe bring it up to North Texas. So up here in North Texas, we partner with United Way of Tarrant County. They have a veterans program called Mission United. That's who runs our call center. So Texas
Your
Veterans
call
Network,
center for the whole state or just for this
just
area?
for North Texas. And Houston, anything south of Waco, it's handled by the Houston intake team. So that's Combined Arms. But we all collaborate with each other. So up here in North Texas, so the Texas Veterans Network, we currently have about 280 other veteran service organizations, government agencies
Amazing.
that are all part of the network. So basically, when you could be active duty, reserve, National Guard, family member, and if you're looking to get connected with a resource, instead of you Googling that information, you come to us. There's 3 ways that you can connect to us. We have obviously our website. We have a QR code. But for us, all the veterans that are not techie savvy, we have a phone number. So that phone number, depending where you live here in the state of Texas, it could either go to the Houston team or the North Texas team.
So they've sorted out then.
They sort it out. So everything's mapped out by according to zip code. And within those zip codes, we have a list of which organizations are providing those free resources to the veterans and their families.
And on their website, I think we had somebody not long ago that, you have to kind of log in or something to tell them who you are. You have to sign up, and they were just really having a problem with that. They just couldn't. Well, I just want the information. Well, you need to know who you're dealing
Yeah.
with to get the
Right.
information.
Yeah. It's kind of
It's
hard
not-
to point a person in the right
Yeah.
direction if you
So-
don't know who you're talking to.
So like for the younger veterans who are very tech savvy, they could.
You keep looking at me whenever you say older veterans. I
Well,
notice that.
we're like on the same. I'll look
Rick
this way.
feels
then.
some kind of way.
So they could go on there, create their own profile, and they could self-navigate.
Yeah.
They could pick and choose.
Right.
Okay, hey, I'm
Right.
thinking about going back to school, or I'm thinking about starting my own business. So depending on where he or she clicks, I'll direct them to one of the organizations within the network that are providing those resources.
And then there's always us. We're out in the community, we're out and about, we have a conversation with folks, and it comes up that they have a hurdle or whatever it may be, and we offer to do that quick connect, that referral for them. So we could actually build their profile, submit the referral within 5 minutes or less.
Yeah. It doesn't
know?
take very long.
No, not at all. And we have 14 different service categories. Some of the stuff is, career services, could be start to finish finding a job or one milestone of that, financial assistance. It could be fun stuff like connection with social resources, because that's important to wellness. Our legal category and mental health are huge. There's tons of breakdowns within those categories to subcategories, but we're always growing the network. So like Gus mentioned, the 280-ish organizations, we don't just onboard anybody because we're protective of our veterans. So we have a due diligence process where we look at different things before we bring them into the network, and we make sure our expectations are aligned as far as response time. So for us, our standard is a 72 business hour model, and we monitor that. So because we're a human component, Gus mentioned the call centers, and then also the technical component, we're able to have that accountability and oversight. So, but our big thing is bringing people together. So not only serving the end users, which is anybody military, anybody veteran, doesn't matter discharge, doesn't matter if they served a day or 30 years, the dependents, so spouses and caregivers, we will get them connected with the right resource the first time, and that's why we exist. So we don't want anybody to fall through the cracks. We do always look to grow our network, but we do it carefully because, again, we want to make sure that we're protecting our veteran and military community.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people out there that'd like to take advantage.
Yes.
We see that.
So a lot of the organizations, especially here in Texas, that get grants from the Texas Veterans Commission. So, for example, Habitat for Humanity has a veterans program where if you have a veteran that fits a certain income, they could get their kitchens, bathrooms redone, ramps. So that type of service.
Yes. And with that, sometimes that eligibility criteria becomes overwhelming. If a veteran is in need of something, especially if they're in a crisis situation, you've got stress happening, you've got, we know the brain functions differently in crisis, and people tend to get very frustrated, throw their hands up, and give up. So like Gus used that as an example, which is great because a lot of these agencies have eligibility criteria, and it can be overwhelming. So that's especially where our call centers, our intake team comes into play, because it is a guided human component to get people to the right resource.
Imagine that, a voice on the phone that's not a recording. But Gus, when you say that there's programs if they need something done in their home and they need help, what kind of things would that be? Would it just be if they had a handicap and they needed something done, or
So-
what? Because people out there, I'm sure, are wondering,
Yeah.
well, what do you mean? What can be
So
done?
I know, for example, Habitat for Humanity, they get grants from the Texas Veterans Commission. So they have to meet a certain criteria. So they have to own a home. That's one. Meet a certain income. So, and we have all that built within
Right.
our system. So now when they speak to one of our staff members, who the majority are all veterans, okay, so they know the lingo, they know how to speak to the veteran
Or spouses.
or spouses. And what happens is they're gonna do a direct referral after reading, if they meet that criteria. So
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 really,
if
I think,
for example, we have a World War II veteran, lives in owns his property and has a trailer house that he lives in on his property, and has had numerous issues with the bathroom and different things like that. Would he, and it's probably not now a thing that needs to be taken care of, but would he have been a good candidate, do you think, for their help in fixing the leak in the bathroom and stuff like that?
You have other organizations other than Habitat for Humanity. Servolution, for example, out of Hazel.
Yep, know them well.
They, so
Great
we put the word
organization.
out. We also, we're well plugged in with a lot of local businesses, a lot of the major companies, who employ a lot of veterans. We try to connect with them. So a lot of them are doing projects. So they reach out to us, hey, we're looking to do a project. That's something that we could bring up to them.
but I think in the end, there just has to be a need, a valid need, nothing cosmetic. So whether it's weatherization, things like that. So, and it never hurts to reach out to us, because the
Yeah,
worst.
not I just
Yeah.
want to remodel my kitchen,
Correct.
but like I have like this.
Serious problem.
Correct.
We
Need
went
new
out there
carpet.
a couple of years ago. That was beginning of COVID, I think, as a matter of fact. We went out and they had a huge ant problem, and we contacted Massey, who Massey Pest Control came out and took care of the problem for free, which was awesome. And but we had to clean the land up first, and then they had a problem with we had to build them a ramp, and so these are things that we just did on our own. Where if I would have known about you guys, I would have called you guys and had you do it, because we just marshaled our resources,
Right.
And we took care of the World War II veteran.
And we like to use that word collaboration. It's you can do it. Not one non-for-profit can do everything.
Right.
So if you're a non-for-profit that's doing one thing, if you're good at it, stick with it. Because there's others that are doing something different. So it's all about collaboration and just educating the veterans. There's a lot of veterans out here that, we run into a lot of them where they're not registered with the VA. Hey, I don't want to do with the VA. Whatever you feel, your feelings against the VA is, but you know what? You have to register.
Yeah. Get registered.
Get registered.
If there's one thing we should foot stomp today is if
We
you
are
are a
that.
veteran out there and you have not registered with the VA, it's a
Please.
ticket to a whole bunch of stuff, even if you don't want to deal with them, even if you don't have a disability. Get registered with the
Register
VA.
That's
I mean,
And can you take care of people that need to do that? I mean,
We
let's
do.
say somebody that has what they consider a disability. Can you help them, guide them to somebody that can help
So in our
submit
network,
the claim?
yes, we have VA accredited filers, and they're with a couple different agencies, so there are different options. But we've helped people do their initial claim or even appeals. I met a gentleman last week from another state because Combined Arms has the methodology, the technology, and we're not just in Texas. We are fully implemented in Texas and South Carolina, but we are in some other states as well, like Louisiana, parts of Florida. Don't make me lie, Minnesota or Missouri?
Yeah.
It's an M state. I forget which one.
So yeah,
San Diego?
Minnesota. So
Minnesota, that's the one. And then also we have 43 nationwide providers, and we're always growing our nationwide network. But my point is, I had a gentleman, a little older, he was only rated for 10% with the VA because he filed himself back in the day. And he served 26 plus years. I can't remember how many years. And when he told me that, I said, sir, that's not right. What happened? We spoke about some details. And then I told him, I said, where do you live? And he told me, and I said, well, we have a presence in that area. Can I please put in a referral on your behalf? Because that just doesn't seem right to me. He consented. And so we submitted the referral. And I was at a conference for 4 days. So the very next day, he came by my table and he said, they've already reached out to me.
Wow.
And I was like, yes, outstanding.
the other thing that we run into a lot, Rick and Mary, it's a lot of veterans. They're paying someone to file their claim.
Isn't it insane? I tell them all the time, why are you paying?
Yes.
I just met a gentleman a few weeks ago at the Fort Worth VA clinic doing that mobile food pantry. Just got into a conversation, and he asked me, he goes, do we have any contacts with attorneys? So we do, Lone Star Legal Aid. And I asked him what was the reason, was it some type of, and he goes, yeah, I'm paying someone $3,300 to file their claim.
Wow.
Yeah, because I've heard that. People have told my husband that because he was avionics in the Air Force. He didn't retire, did 10 or 12 years, and people are always after him about, you should be setting up your stuff and everything else. And he said, yeah, they keep giving me these names of people, and they just take your first 6 checks or something like that.
Yes, some
And
do.
I'm like, why? All
Yes.
if you don't want to do anything else, call the Texas Veterans Commission and get it. They'll take
Yes.
care of it. Why are you paying someone to do
Texas
this?
Veterans Commission, you got DAV, you got Wounded Warrior Project,
Yeah.
if you're post 9/11. So they have people on staff that help you fill out that paperwork.
Me personally, I feel a paid provider should be a person's last resort. Somebody maybe whose medical situation is super unique, records are nowhere to be found. It may be in that instance that might be a viable option, but that's a last resort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should
But
not
these-
be the first.
These organizations that you refer them to, those people, I mean, that's like their full-time deal.
Correct.
And
Yes, sir.
so, I mean, they're the professionals,
Yes.
and they're getting funded, to do that.
Yes.
But I think in filing claims and stuff, is that, you know, you get told no, and then you get frustrated because it's already been months and months, and so then you just say, you blow it off, and then, you know, and I'm talking from
Yeah.
personal experience,
Yes, sir.
and then, you know, a year or two later you say, you know, this isn't right, so go file another one, you know, and then it gets, you know, declined, and then you're back to, and then you just get frustrated and give up, and that just saves the system
And-
money because they don't have to.
And that's what they want you to do,
Right,
but you
right.
gotta, you know, you gotta keep up with it.
Yep.
I mean-
I went through the Texas Veterans Commission because when I was doing my separation, my retirement physical, the doc said, I'm like, I don't think I have anything. And he said, no, you have some things you at least have to get, you know, even if you get a 0%.
That's right.
You just need to go get them
That's a
rated. You have some
percentage.
you have some things that you should get put on there.
And
Yes.
it is,
And I got a hold of the TVC. I filled up my paperwork. I signed and
Yes.
gave them permission to do everything on my behalf, and I was done. Didn't do
Yes.
another thing.
Yes.
And in less than 6 months, everything was done, including
And those
doctor
people that
visits and everything.
those people that are currently on active duty or in the reserves or something, be sure that you really keep up with your medical records and you
Yes.
make sure everything's
Yes.
documented.
Yeah.
Because Gus and I were both in the medical end of the Army, and it's probably the same way with you. You know, you're working with the docs and stuff, and you say, hey, doc, I've got a problem, and they take care of it, and it never goes in your
Never goes
records.
in your
So-
record.
Yeah.
And a big thing right now is this PACT Act, which is amazing. So here's what I'll say about the VA and any big agency that is large. The bureaucracy allows for some folks to really shine and be outstanding, and maybe some are not so great, right? It's any organization, it's the human component to it. But the VA is doing some wonderful things nowadays to innovate and to engage with the community, and it's not the same VA as it was decades ago. The other thing I'll say is, you know, PSA for the PACT Act that was just extended to the 14th. You know, if you were going to file, even now, there might be a little lapse after the deadline for the benefits to kick in if someone is eligible, but file, because if anyone was exposed to toxic material, it's not just about the service member. Like you said, it's about the family. So what if something happens down the road and something develops and it's service connected? At least your family will be provided for because it's in your record and it's documented. So if anybody was exposed to anything toxic, burn pits is one thing, and there is a burn pit registry, but this new PACT Act piece is also different than the burn pit registry. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there because it's something that we've learned and we deal with, and we just want to let other veterans know. Because at the end of the day, Texas Veterans Network, Gus, myself, Megan, our boss in this area, we're all about helping.
Yeah.
We just want to help.
And the thing with the PACT Act that people get confused on is they go, oh, well, I missed a deadline. I can't do anything. No, the deadline was just if you wanted to get back pay to whatever month in 2022.
Right.
So if you file next year, it just means that when you get approved,
That's
if you
right.
get approved, that your payments start from that point,
That's
not
right.
backdated. So don't get confused.
Yes,
Don't
ma'am.
let all the noise drown out the reality that the deadline was just for back pay.
Yeah, good
And
point.
unfortunately, don't listen to some of your fellow veterans.
That's right. It's like the
Rumor is
it's like the dormitory lawyers.
Yes.
You know that
Well,
want to
we
tell you
call
how to
them
do
something
things.
else.
Right.
We call them sea lawyers. But
see, that's a Navy term.
yeah.
Sea lawyers. But you know, it's listen. The resources are out there. Like I said, we have a whole team here in Texas. So we're up here in North Texas. We have staff in Central Texas, South Texas,
The entire state.
the entire state, pretty much. I mean, and like I said, like Krystle said before, we have some national partners. So even if you don't live here in Texas, just go on our website. You could call that number, and our intake team will connect you with one of those resources. Like I said, the technologies that Combined Arms started here in Texas, so now other states are reaching out to Combined Arms. Hey, what is it that you guys are doing down in? And when I say you guys, you all.
Y'all.
Yeah. You guys
guys.
works for me. I mean,
These
I'm
guys.
good. I'm
So,
good.
you know, what is it that you guys are doing down in Texas? So now Louisiana is coming on board.
Yep.
South Carolina. So they call. So for example, South Carolina Department of Veterans
Alliance.
Alliance, powered by Combined Arms.
That's right.
So it's all, you know, it's working out pretty good right now. So
I will say we do not typically work with for-profit businesses. However, collaboration does look like different things to different agencies. And again, we're there to complement, we're there to grow and to add value. So sometimes if a for-profit business has like a veteran employee group, we're always happy to go out and do a presentation about how the network works, maybe demonstrate the technology, serve in that capacity. But no for-profit institutions could be in our network. So that was something I wanted to clarify.
So so if a for-profit organization, let's say a car repair shop,
Sure.
wanted to give away, you know, hey, if you've got a veteran that needs a car repair, can't afford it, we wanna take care of that.
We always accept donations,
Yeah.
if that's what you're saying.
So, but because
Yeah.
think about how
Yeah.
many for-profit
Yeah.
organizations are out there
Yeah.
that do roofing or
Yeah.
do,
and
you know,
what
any
we'll
number
do
of
is
things.
we'll connect them with one of our providers.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, do you have a veteran that's in this need? So we'll make the either the connection or the direct referral.
Yes.
You know, once a month we have a call with all our providers,
Right.
and we learn from each other. Hey, what's working for you? So and then
We share upcoming community
Events.
Yep.
things like
And
that.
I share those
Yeah.
with roll call.
you know it's yeah, like I said, it's all about collaboration, and after a while you get to know who the key players are in the area, and you become friends. I mean, we work very close with the Texas Veterans Land Board, with the
Yes.
rep up here, Winter Warrior Project. I mean, there's some great organizations, and we all network with each other. You know.
So what I think a lot of people would want to know is, can you give some specifics in each category of things that you do for folks? Like, different cases of, we had this veteran needed help with X, Y, and Z, and we provided, we were able to get for them. So that people get some idea of, oh, well, this is a time that I would call you guys, or this is a time I'd go online and ask for help.
Yeah. So with regards to, let's say, mental wellness, that, like I said, is a huge category. There's providers in our network that deal with addiction issues. These are all free resources. Our service is free, and the service that our providers provide is also free. It could be family counseling. It could be PTSD, counseling. There are fun retreats that help. We also have resources for depression and anxiety. Let's face it, the transition process, getting out of the military, is tough. It has gotten so much better than years past, but it is so tough because you took almost sometimes 4 years or 20 years to become a service member, and then you have to quickly get out. You're inundated with so much information at one time, you will remember a fraction of
Right,
it.
right.
And I think at the end of the day, that's really why Texas Veterans Network and Combined Arms exists, is to disrupt that landscape of the old way of doing business and pulling people together. A lot of our colleagues will go out to the different bases and do presentations to transitioning service members. I joke and I say, we'll go anywhere we're invited. Sometimes I'll go where I'm not invited. Thank God I haven't gone to jail yet, But yeah, so mental health is huge. Those are some specific examples. Legal is huge. It could be housing law. It could be consumer law. It could be family law. Some of those have thresholds for income, for eligibility, because if you make enough to be able to pay a lawyer, you may have to go that route. But for those that don't have the funds, that's certainly where we come into play.
So what would be an example of something that would be in housing law or family law?
Ooh, I think you're asking the wrong person, unfortunately. I could say, as far as housing law, though, evictions is a big thing, especially when people have financial issues. So that's an example that I do know of, but I am by no means a legal expert.
So, for example, if you're in need of rental assistance, financial assistance, you automatically going to speak to one of our intake coordinators. They're going to do an assessment. They're going to ask you, hey, why you're in need of financial assistance? Are you looking for employment? Are you in some type of mental health? They're not just going to
They're going to try to get to the root cause
The
of
root cause.
why you are where you are.
Because we track all this information, and what used to happen in the past was you had veterans that would basically, they knew when a lot of these organizations, the grants were running out, they would go shopping basically from one to another. Now we track all that information to get to the root of the problem. Like, okay, 8 months ago, this organization helped you with financials. Why are you back in the same boat? So we don't want that recurring. That's what we're trying to prevent.
Right, yeah, you don't want to abuse that system.
Right.
But if I come to you and I say, man, I can't pay my light bill this month, and so then your folks are going to figure out what's going on, see about getting me some help if the need is real, but also try to figure out, how did you get in this situation? Do we need to get you some financial counseling to help you learn how to budget and everything else? So it sounds like it's multifaceted.
Multifaceted.
Yeah, and then entrepreneur, we didn't talk about that, but that's another category in the network is entrepreneurial resources. Veterans make excellent business owners and franchise owners. We have tons of resources that help from the idea creation phase to growing an existing business, and there's tons of incentives out there for veterans. There might be some tax exemptions, just different logos and things like that. So if anybody thinks about wanting to become a business owner, come to us. We can get you connected with those best-in-class providers to assist with that as well. It could be volunteer opportunities.
There's a whole
Fun stuff,
Fun
getting
stuff,
out in
I
the
mean-
community and doing things and getting connected, because when you transition, and I could tell my situation, I probably didn't have the traditional triggers that would have made me high risk to transition, but mine was rough, and it was a lot of life change at one time. It was very stressful, and you have this thing as a veteran that you want to not put burden on other people, that you're going to kind of isolate and you're going to get through it. But that's not the best coping mechanism. That's more of a maladaptive way to cope. So overcoming that temptation of wanting to isolate is something that we have to do, and we have to tell the folks coming behind us that you're going to want to do it, but don't give in to that temptation.
I didn't even like civilians when I got off active duty in 1986. I was like, man, in the 80s there was none of this stuff.
Yeah.
And after 7.5 years on active duty, I was like, what is going on in
what's
my
going on
life?
Yeah.
And we'll go, for example, if you have someone that's transitioning out of the military, they need a resume. Now, do they need a civilian resume or they need a
Federal.
federal?
Yeah,
So
because
we
there's
have-
a big difference.
Very.
It's 15 pages long.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Help
we
with
ha-
LinkedIn.
help with link. So we have those resources, but we also have connections through, for example, if you want to get with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, we know the local recruiter here in Fort Worth. So it's just sometimes, like I said, we go to a lot of these resource fairs, and we'll make that face-to-face connection, and then we'll just do a direct connection to that veteran. So stuff like that. I mean,
What if you help them and you help them get a resume done and you help them with the job? Because I've seen, I send out the job fair stuff that you guys put out, all that stuff, but I don't have the clothes to wear
we do
to
have
that
it.
interview.
There's an organization that's part of the network that provides suits for an interview. Matter of fact, they just did a great article. There's a store in Addison that if you're a veteran,
I saw that.
it was on the news the other day.
Yep, it sure was.
And listen, LinkedIn is powerful.
Very.
I went on LinkedIn, connected with the gentleman, so now we have that connection. But there is organizations out there that'll provide, and if they need a suit, but also through our network, we work with a lot of veterans who are business owners. We'll just put the word out. Hey, we have a veteran that's, and half the time, fellow veterans that are business owners will help out with that.
Yeah.
So,
Because, a lot of what people don't realize is if you go in the military at 17 or 18 years old, you've never interviewed, you've never had to dress for an interview,
Yes.
you've never had to write a resume. And so now all of a sudden you're out And
Formula is so different.
oh, it's way
So
different
different.
on the civilian side.
Yeah.
And so how do I practice? How do I get ready
Exactly.
for an interview? So
Yes.
all of those kind of things
Yes.
you guys can help them
Sure.
with. And it's not you personally, but
Right.
it's you
Our
with the
providers.
tentacles
Yes.
of all of these different people.
You know, we just did a
Yes.
presentation to several fire departments here in the area, and I've learned that they have a program. If you're getting out of the military or you're a guard or reserve, you can use a GI Bill to go through that fire academy.
Right.
A lot of the police departments in the area are hiring. So there is jobs out there. You just got to know how to get connected with those jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But mock interviews, back to your point, is super valuable.
Oh,
and we
it
do
is.
have providers in the network that can help with that. So definitely take that that
Marriage
help.
counseling. I
Yep.
mean, there's a ton.
Ton. And we tell people, the intake team, I'm going to brag on our intake team because they are awesome. Gus said a minute ago, they're either veterans or they're veteran spouses, so they speak the lingo and they understand and relate. But they average a 4-hour response time. So from the time that, Gus and I put a referral into the network, you're most likely getting a call within 4 hours or less.
That's quick.
That is quick.
And please answer the phone
yes. Yeah.
and answer their emails.
The challenge nowadays is the spam calls. So
Right.
we'll tell people, okay, within the next 2 days, we, pad it just to shape expectations. Take any incoming calls, because you don't want to miss it. But they will typically, if they do miss an attempt, they'll reach out a second, third time. But then after about 3 times, if you don't respond, we have no choice but to close out that referral. Not to say that we can't reopen a new one, we can. But, it's a partnership. So you have a part to play in it as well. Yeah.
But the other thing that I would caution people that are watching this or listening to it later, if you go out there and you ask for help,
Yes.
and these folks are able to connect you with help, if it doesn't come in exactly the shape that you want it to be, because that's not what is physically or really is the best case scenario, because I had that happen.
Or you don't like the way they're going to do something.
Right,
But
because I had somebody who needed some help with a ramp, and we went through all the work of getting a provider, somebody that was going to build this ramp for him, and then they said, oh no, I want a concrete ramp. Well, that's not a requirement. That's not something that anybody's going to do.
Right.
And so they turned down the ramp for the World War II veteran in their family because it wasn't exactly the way they wanted it to be. So these folks can only do what they can do. You have to remember that they're here to help take care of your family member or you where you are now and meet the needs, not for something that's going to last for 100 years or whatever. But
Yeah.
you got to be willing
point.
to, and just don't try to squander the resources. There's limited resources to take care of everybody, and we want to be good stewards of what we have.
Yes.
Good point.
And some other things that we do besides focusing on the end user, we do reach out. We work with folks in the community that advocate or work with veterans often, like yourself. You're what we call a community connector. So if there's folks listening and you advocate and you work with veterans routinely and you would like to get the free access to our technology to submit referrals into the network, that's certainly something we could do. Again, it is free. And then we also invite anybody that has, like Gus said, if you're a government entity, state or federal, or a 501c3 that's existed for 2 or more years, and you're curious, you want to know if you're a good fit, reach out to us. Again, they can get the free access to the technology. In those cases, that's where the referral can go back and forth. They could receive referrals as well as submit referrals for services they cannot provide. So it is kind of like an easy button to increase the quality of life of not only their staff at their nonprofit, but also to boost the level of quality that their clients can receive by being a part of the network. And the interesting thing about the network is, and hopefully this doesn't creep people out, but it's aggregating some data on the back end. So there are some analytics that are tracked, large scale stuff, not to a name or a person, but It allows us to map where our veterans are and what their needs have been. And it also can help our lawmakers and our representatives know where we need to maybe program future funding or grow services. So again, if you're a provider and you're not part of the network and you're thinking, well, I wonder if I should join, for that very reason alone, I would say call us. Let's have a conversation. We're not here to take over your program or your agency. We are about collaboration. We are about working together. So.
And how do they get a hold of you? What's your phone number?
Well, I can tell you that my cell phone number is 713-364-5180. I am on LinkedIn, so you can look me up there as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Or they could go on our website. So we have a staff member who deals with all incoming. If anybody needs any information about
True.
how to get into the
Okay.
network, so he vets those organizations.
Okay.
Could do that. So pretty much on our website, or
And your website is,
it's Texas Veterans Network,
okay,
and then just look for Combined Arms.
okay.
Yeah, I think it has a button on the lower right corner where it says become a community org, and they can
Okay.
click that
Yeah.
button.
So there's a lot of resources out there for veterans, so, I mean,
Yes.
use this
Yes.
information.
Right, because if you think about it, do you want to be making a phone call to all of these different organizations to try to get help, or do you want a one-stop shop, which is what we talked about for the last year with Larry about us coming to do this show, was we have a lot of different things and a lot of different people doing things. And sometimes it's unique. What Carrie does with Holidays and Heroes is different from what we do at Roll Call, is different from what the Air Power Council does.
Yes.
But we all work together because, you know, if somebody needs just to get out and be able to be with other people to connect with, they need to come to a Roll Call lunch.
Yes.
If they're a military family out here on base that can't provide Christmas for their family, they need Holidays and Heroes. But why should they have to go out to all of these different places to look for something when they can go directly to you guys?
That's right.
And you guys have the connection to go, oh, here's some options for you.
Yes.
Here's some options for you over here.
And it's unlimited.
And it's free.
It makes organizations like Roll Call, it makes it easier for us because we don't have to go try
Right.
to sort things out or
Yep.
when them 3 or 4 places.
Yep.
We can just send them
It
one
has
place.
saved me a lot of phone calls. Let's just put it that way. It has saved me because when a veteran reaches out to me, whether it's on the phone or through email, and they say, I need help with X. Now, if it's just, moving them from one place to another, I reach out to the 1,500 people on our roster and I say, hey, so-and-so needs help moving from this place to this place. Who's got a truck and who can help? I'm not going to call you guys for that.
Right.
But if they call me and they need help because they have a problem with their house, or they need help because their PTSD is bothering them or whatever, then I can point them to you guys and get a referral in, and all of a sudden I don't have to make 50 phone calls and I don't have to send out a bunch of emails. It really frees me up.
It's it's long overdue. Like I said in the past, you had, I think here in North Texas, it's about 650 veteran service organizations that are supposedly helping veterans. In the past, they weren't communicating with each other.
Not at all.
So
And this is huge because it brings them together. So.
Right.
And that's what we want.
That's
And it
Yeah.
also helps the organizations find the fit,
Exactly. Exactly.
data equals money.
Yeah, but I also like what you said about them being able to take a look at with those demographics and say, because can you imagine somebody like Representative Kay Granger, who, needs to know, what are the hot topics in my district, and she could find out, boom, this is the need that you guys are taking care of for the veterans in my district.
Yes.
Same thing with any of the other representatives or senators or anybody. They can find out
Yes.
what are the needs in my community
And
that
how
I'm
many veterans you
responsible
have
for.
living in
Yeah.
Right.
within your community.
And census data isn't going to get it done.
No.
Census data takes a really long time, and then by the time it is analyzed and ready,
It's
it's
time for the next
obsolete.
census.
It's time for a
Get
new
ready for the next
census.
census.
So yeah.
Well, our time's just about over. and that hour goes by
Wow.
pretty fast.
Yeah.
So y'all are out at a lot of different places.
Everywhere.
And so if you see a Texas Veterans Network little tent, or you see these folks, stop and just say hi.
Yes.
Find out. I mean, sometimes they got some free stuff they give you, you know, pins and things like that.
We love to laugh. We love to give you a hard time.
Yeah.
It's
But
great.
but this is a
Yes.
great resource
Army, Navy.
for our
Yeah.
veterans, and we'll have your website. We'll put also the phone number for the older veterans, so they can call.
That
So we
number.
can call.
I
But
was going to say, now, if they're seeing this on the Facebook, they probably aren't one of those that's
Yeah.
against computer technology.
And, you know, we just want to add,
You
like
just
I said,
never know.
you know, our teammate, Megan, who's the North Texas Regional Manager, she's great. You know, she's, even though she's not a veteran, she's a Marine brat. I think I laugh sometimes because we'll be at an event, you'll get one of these Marines, and you know, she'll ask me, well, how long were you in for? Oh, 3 years. She's like, got you beat. Was a Marine brat, you know, so she's got lots of relatives that are
I
still
think her
in.
dad was a colonel or something.
Yes.
like
He
that.
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but she's
Passionate.
passionate.
Family
Very
members
passionate about
serve
serving.
too.
Veterans.
So
Yes.
sorry she couldn't be here today. So,
Right.
but you know, she'll.
Yeah, one of
Things
the people
happen.
you Texas Veterans Land Board, that's Mallory Morris.
Yeah, Mary Moore, that's another great
she's
resource.
a great resource
Wonderful.
too. So
Yeah, Wounded Warrior Project. I mean, that's some great, another great group here in the area, emerging vets and players, which a lot of, you know, they're starting to grow here in the area. So if you're a veteran, you're into working out, they have sessions, and then afterwards they do a hurdle
I need to
workout.
get with that group.
And it's not like a workout, like, you know, it's pretty good, right?
Yeah,
We've
it's
done
wonderful.
it. And
Combat
afterwards-
veterans and pro athletes,
Yeah, you
they have a
hurt,
lot to
do a
share
hurdle,
in
and-
common.
yeah.
So,
So,
yeah, but the resources are out there. Just gotta reach out to us and
And this is the place to
Yep.
get all the resources in one
One-stop shop.
huh?
and every time I see Rick is always taking photos, so we never get the chance.
Yeah, well, you
We're
can
gonna have a-
actually see him because
We're
he's
gonna,
not
we're gonna
got his
take a
head behind
picture
the camera.
today,
Yeah,
and
this
we'll
is
both be
the-
in it. So
You know that we've spoken the most because he's usually running the other way. I'm gonna go the other way.
and I always take your picture,
Yeah, I know.
but I do have to do a lot of Photoshop to make it look good.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, the white hair. You know,
But we're so appreciative of y'all being here and sharing that information.
thank you so much
And
for having
for
us.
having us.
we just we know on our end where we're going to start. Mary already does, but we're going to start sending them to y'all.
Please do.
So.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
And we have a roll call next
Friday the 25th.
week coming up.
And the day before that is the lunch on base, one of the last two at the galley for those with
That's
base
right.
access.
Shutting
So
the
they're going to
galley
have
down.
a great lunch on Thursday the 24th from 11 to 12:30, and then September will be the last time that they do it, and then they'll be closing the galley. Just hasn't gotten the use, and they're going to find other ways to make sure that the folks are fed and everything else. But so if you're able to go out to one of these last two or both, make sure you get out there to the base. The skipper has been awesome. We want to definitely help out. For those roll call folks listening, or Holidays and Heroes, Air Power, whatever you are, go out and sign up to help out with the Patriot Games on September 10th on base. We still need probably about 40 volunteers. They need 100 total. So we've got some of our folks already volunteering. But if you're available, get signed up to help out with that. And roll call lunch, we have quite the event going to be at the lunch. We're going to have Representative Granger there, and she's going to be presenting 10 people with the Congressional Veterans Commendation. And then we also have our speaker, Dan Roberts, Vietnam veteran, and he was a LERP, so it's going to be an interesting story to hear. I don't know who all the 10 people are. I know some of them because they've shared their announcement with me. And, you know, several of them are our members. And then there's some other folks that have RSVP'd that I don't recognize their names, so I'm assuming that they're one of them.
Must be the other people.
Yeah, the people.
But go to the website because as of yesterday, we are already at about 420. So we're really close to our limit. So if you've not RSVP'd, I'd say today or tomorrow, or it's going to end up where we're going to be full. So go out to the roll-call.org website. Below the mission statement, find the RSVP link, click it, and it takes about 3 seconds.
And there's a lot of other events coming up. We have a
Lots.
clay shoot on the 15th of October. We need
Teams.
shooters to sign up. We need sponsors to sign up. The Fort Worth Air Power Council, they've got it's outdoor extravaganza coming up,
Right.
and that's on the 7th. And also, Freedom Mobility in November, we're going to have a golf tournament, and it's a big golf tournament up close to Denton. So, and then Air Power Foundation will have the Skyball in November. So, a lot of
Yeah.
stuff coming up.
Fall is always very busy.
It is.
Very
It's a
busy.
busy
Yeah,
time.
we're busy from now
And
till
the
the end of the
Veterans
year.
Day Parade in
Yes.
Fort
That's right.
Worth.
Yes.
Can't
No.
miss that.
The other thing I was going to add, if you're a veteran or family member here in the Fort Worth area, it's every third Monday of the month. So the next one, it's Monday, August 21st. It's the mobile food pantry.
Right.
That's another
Yep.
great.
It's at the VA.
The
VA
Fort
clinic.
Worth VA.
Outpatient clinic. Yes.
20 in Campus Drive.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's basically from 7 a.m. they start lining up. It's got to show your VA card or some type of military ID card
Yep.
Until
And-
they're out of food.
until they're out of food. So
Okay.
that's another great resource. So.
Yep.
And
I sent that out to all of our folks too.
our host, Larry O'Neill, in Fort Worth Memories, he has a bike drive every December, and so that's gearing up. So there's a lot
Already
of
got some bikes.
stuff to help people. But thank you all for being on the show, and I look forward to sending myself to
Please.
Listen,
to
we're,
get.
we're here, Rick.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I'm gonna-
If anything, we're
Growing.
growing.
Expanding.
we appreciate y'all. Appreciate your service to our country.
Thank you for yours.
And certainly the service you're giving our veterans now and our military down in the great state of Texas. So,
That's right.
Mary, I'll see you somewhere along the way this week or next week.
I'm sure.
And we thank you all for watching Hometown Heroes, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 10 o'clock.
That was a good one.